of Coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm Jay, your host, and we do this live stream Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the show. Hope things are going well today. We are headed down to Bethesda, Maryland to meet up with someone, and I told him I'd be there by 11:30. So that puts us right in the middle of our live stream to head down there. But it takes about an hour, 20 minutes or so to get down there. And I thought I'd just share the drive with you and talk coffee. How y'all doing today? I hope everything's going well. I wanted to get some coffee before, because when you're driving somewhere, you want to have stuff on the road. So I thought that I would come down and I wanted to go to this local bakery, one of my local bakeries, a place called Simon's Bakery. I really like their product. They're very old school, like that really old school American bakery. They do a lot of like raised donuts and things like that, but in the old school tradition, not this new school fancy artisanal kind of stuff. It's just the way that people used to do it back when I was a child, right? So I went there and I picked up a couple donuts. And the problem was that, I bought a couple donuts, and I said to them, hey, how long has that coffee been there? Because they sell coffee. It's like, I'm not going to buy that. We're sorry, we're going through a little bit of an area that has poor cell reception. And I was like, okay, we're not going to buy that. So I thought, okay, let's grab some donuts. 3 donuts, $4.20 with tax. And I was like, well, I would like to have coffee for the show. So I thought, well, let me go down to, there's a Dunkin' Donuts kind of down the street. So I went to the Dunkin' Donuts, went to the drive-thru, bought a large coffee, bought this large coffee, $3.06. This is like 20 ounces, I think. I took about half of it and poured it out because I didn't want to work this large drink. I put it into this Corksicle Darth Vader mug. So I've got some to be chill. Maku, good morning to you. Just dropping in to say hi, but a conflicting work meeting. Understood, man. I've got a conflicting work thing as well. So that's why we're on the road. Hope your meeting goes well, though. So let's try their Dunkin' Donuts. I ordered Dunkin' Donuts in black. And the guy was like, black? I was like, yeah. It runs to that movie, but you're black. Yeah, that's right. We want the black coffee. We want to see what it tastes like. So let's have a taste of the Dunkin's. We've done Dunkin's before. We did it back in May when I was up in the Dunkin's hometown of the Boston area in Massachusetts. Smelling it, there's slightly roastiness in this nostril. See, part of the reason I want to dump it out is that as the roads here in Maryland are not very smooth, so there's some bumps. And as I'm snorting this, or as I'm sniffing this, the liquid is sloshing around, and if it was full, I would be snorting it. I mean, a little bit dirty, not terrible. Workable. It's workable. I think it'd be workable in the way that they typically serve this, which I believe is with cream and sugar, and usually copious amounts of cream and sugar. It's definitely some bitters. I decided to walk to the supermarket with both eyes open yesterday and noticed that we also have... see, it's not just that German brand there, Anton. So have you tried the mixing it with espresso yet? I think it's very serviceable. The coffee, like a slight dirtiness. Anton says it's surprisingly different to Actimel, so I'm gonna try the thing again. Oh, okay, that's right. You had some difficult things, but I have to get new espresso beans first. Of course, the weather's crazy. Oh no, that's terrible. Keone, what's going on, Keone? Aloha in Taiwan at the moment. Just got back to the hotel. Oh, nice. Taiwan. I like it there. I've only been there once. I would like to go there more. But good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. So it's actually I think fairly enjoyable for a regular coffee. I can't complain. But I think that because like I said, I think the way they serve it mostly is with cream and sugar. I decided to forego the cream and sugar, even though I probably would enjoy it. But I figured that the sugariness of the donut would offset it. Now, let's go to the donuts. I am driving at the speed limit. So I like these old school raised donuts. Right? Don't get me wrong, I like the new school stuff too, but there's something nostalgic for me about these old school ones, right? And so this is festive today, kind of like in fall, like Halloween. And I was like, oh, coffee for the last ask. I'm headed down to Bethesda, Maryland. And so here's the donut. Look at that. That's so pretty. It's such a chocolate covered raised donut. Love them. Love them. I'm not a big fan of cake donuts unless it's blueberry cake. I love blueberry cake donuts. I love these. I like the glazed. But there's so many different textures in the donut world. But these guys are very consistent. The day when we did the episode with the Nutella donut and the za'atar, I asked Simons to fry me up some of those shells. Their dough is actually lightly sweet. It's not terribly sweet. It's also a little more cakey, right? It's got a lot of toothiness, a lot of texture. Sometimes you get raised donuts and they're very light and yielding. This is a little bit more stout, a little more robust as far as raised donuts goes. But when I really want to have light and airy donuts, I want to get the French cruller, right? The French cruller. So these French crullers are these probably are my favorite because I love the light airiness of the donut, a little bit of glaze. The thing about these are different. There's typically raised, there's cake. These are kind of the anomaly in the donut world. These are made by using a pâte choux. Oh gosh, here's more traffic. Ever since, so here in the Baltimore's Beltway, I'm on Baltimore's Beltway, what's called 695. And if you recall back in March, the city of Baltimore faced this event where a big ocean, freight liner crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing a total collapse of the bridge. That bridge is part of the Baltimore Beltway. It is what actually completes the loop around the metropolitan area. And a lot of vehicles will use that bridge to cross and back and forth to that side of the city, or that side of the region. It's also where that area is where all of the major shipping happens. A place called Sparrows Point. My brother works there. And it has definitely impacted the traffic. There's no time that I can drive through I drive this path pretty regularly to visit clients. There's always traffic here, like now. They used to never be this way until recently. It's also being exacerbated by the fact that they're also doing road work. So they typically would close one of the left lane lately. So that bottlenecks everything more. So it's always a little bit of an extra time. But anyway, so here's the donut, right? So the French cruller is made using a pâte choux. Pâte choux are a little bit different in the way that they're made because they're super hydrated doughs. When you're making a dough, you're taking flour, butter, sugar, eggs, milk, or water, or whatever. You're mixing it together. In the case of raised donuts, you're letting it rise. Well, cake donuts, I think they don't let it rise as much. With the French cruller, it's kind of using a French technique to make the pâté choux, or which is very similar to the tangzhou method in Asia, where you take the flour and you increase the hydration of the flour by heating it with its liquid. So to make the tangzhou, or even the pâté choux, you're going to take that flour, you're going to mix it with the milk, mix it with the wet ingredients. You're going to heat it on the stove to increase. Uh-oh, are we losing? Looks like we're losing signal. To increase hydration, maybe we're not, to increase hydration of your dough, which gives you this springy character of pâté choux, or in this case, the French cruller. And it's light, it's airy. Like here's the, let's have a bite. Oh, mamma mia. See the crevices? The French, they love this crevice thing, right? Now that I think about it, I don't know if this layering effect, I mean, it is a French technique, pâté choux, or it's recognized as being French. I don't know the history of it. Like, if you go to France, you go to these bakeries and they serve viennoiserie, right? I don't know if that's probably pronounced word, but the viennoiserie are basically pastries that originated in Vienna, hence the name viennoiserie. So are the Austrians that I believe were the ones that truly created the laminated doughs, such as that we find in croissants. And I just wonder, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I just wonder if these are of that similar origin. I don't know. I don't have an answer. Maybe you guys might know. But I do love, oh, I could totally pound on these. Let's have the little coffee with that. You're going to see a car right here. There's actually someone in there. These are camera cars. They hide behind these toilets. The toilets. And I used to get really irritated when they were out there. Like, I've heard of people throwing drinks at them as they drove by. I would never do something like that, because they're just money grabs. However, about a year ago, or maybe it was a year ago, here, right along here somewhere, people ever since that have been driving like mad dogs. Like, I notice it. Good morning to you, Craig. And we had an accident here where these guys were in the middle of the day while construction was happening. They're flying down the road and they contacted and flew over I think they flew over the barrier or something, and they wiped out and killed 6 construction workers. All right, these guys came back after that happened. And now that in the daytime, like before, it used to be they would be out there all day long, nighttime, anytime. And it's come on, man, that's just a money grab. But now they're putting them out during work hours when construction crews are actually out working on the streets. And it's okay, that to me makes sense. It's now you are having some modicum of protection for the workers rather than just a money grab for the state. Yeah, but I digress. So let's have another bite of this raised donut. Of course, the problem I love the sprinkles. It's very it's very fun. It's very childish. I love that. The problem is that when you're driving, the sprinkles will come off. So, as I pick it up, there's sprinkles flying everywhere. That I'll have to clean later. But as bad as traffic can be here, in Baltimore, it's not as bad as DC. The DC Beltway is worse. Even on Saturdays and Sundays, I've been down there a lot Saturdays. Even those days, it's Come on, man. Why is there traffic? Why are people going out? Go home. Enjoy your families. Leave the weekend driving to people like me who don't have families to go to. Fleet construction. I don't really know what they're doing. They're doing something. Yesterday they were trenching. Today, who knows? Oh, it looks like today there was a cop that just drove by with his lights on. Maybe today is not not just lane closure. It's also probably maybe an accident. Ugh. Oh yeah, there's more lights up there. So anyway, I decided I got an email yesterday or the day before from a friend of mine, Ashley Whalen. She's the operations. She basically runs the whole kit and caboodle at Ceremony Coffee in Annapolis, Maryland. But she's a really great person, really great coffee talent. Good old friend of mine now. And she emails me, and she also does volunteer work for the United States Coffee Championships. And she sends me an email. She's like, "Hey," it's a form email. Like, "Oh, this is the information sessions for judges and competitors." And I was like, "What am I getting this for?" So a couple months ago, they announced that the United States Coffee Championships are happening, and there are 5 different championships. There is Barista Championship that you're familiar with. Maybe you're familiar with. Oh, Keone says, "Kalamai going down fast. It's 11:20 p.m. here. Doing a tattoo demonstration tomorrow at the museum in Taichung." Oh, nice. Oh, Taichung. Go see, while you're in Taichung, go visit Osir Coffee, OSIR. And Joe, ask if Joe's there. If Joe's there, tell him I said hello. Joe's the owner. Free range, good morning to you. And so, oh yeah, there is road closure too. Anyway, there's barista, there's latte art, there is roasters, there is brewer's cup, and coffee and good spirits. Is there one more? There's one more. I used to run all these, so I can't believe I can't remember. But anyway, they've been having their regionals, so they have regionals. All right, Keone, enjoy. Have a great trip out there. The regionals are happening in different parts of the country. There used to be a time when the SCA, so years ago there was the Specialty Coffee Association of America that was started here in America and is the originator of specialty coffee associations. After a while, the Europeans got jealous and they decided that, hey, we're going to start the SCAE, Specialty Coffee Association of Europe. Now, over the years, the Specialty Coffee Association of America has always been, in some ways, the better organization, better run, better whatever, better financed, or better something. And then, but the SCAE has always had the better. They may not have been as big and they may not have been as well organized, but they had better education programs, meaning that their educational programs were more widespread and more, I believe they were more adopted by people worldwide rather than just in America. They had, and so about 20 years ago, they worked together to start the World Barista Championship and then later World Coffee Events. Quite a few years ago now, they decided that they wanted to merge, and so they merged both into what is now called the Specialty Coffee Association. I was actually one of the people that was against that. Like, I did not think that the SCAA should merge with the SCAE. Honestly, it was more of just, my thought is that, if the SCAE, I was told that part of the reason of the merger was that the SCAE wasn't as financially strong. And I was like, well, you know what? If that's true, then you wait till they collapse and then you take them over. And then you do as you wish. Instead of all this kumbaya stuff, right? I'm not a kumbaya person in that respect. I want to be a corporate raider. I'm not a corporate raider, but I would like to envision myself as the Gordon Gekko of coffee. Okay, maybe not. Anyway, that's the kind of the background of. And I don't even, so back then, the Specialty Coffee Association of America would run the U.S. championships. They'd take it on and they'd run it, they'd fund it and all this. The SCA, once the two organizations merged and the SCA was formed, they started making these SCA chapters in each country. They're not funded by the SCA, they're just kind of affiliated in some way. They give some kind of benefit to that association, and I think the association in the countries pay money to the SCA for that privilege. I don't really know how that works, but knowing the SCA, I don't envision a system where an SCA national organization would exist without them paying tribute to the worldwide organization, right? This is a pay-to-play kind of system, right? And so the SCA US, the US chapter of the Specialty Coffee Association has, went from this powerhouse as the SCAA to this little tiny group that doesn't have as much resources as it once did. And so now they've kind of told the US Coffee Championship people that, hey, you've got to go and do your own funding now. You're kind of on your own. So they've been doing that, which is what has broken down all these different regionals, and it's very disparately joined together. And the people that are working it, like the volunteers like Ashley, they're truly volunteering, and they're really trying. I think they are trying their best to put on the events. So where once the United States Barista Championship, and I'm going to say this without actually having been to the U.S. Barista Championship this past year. Whereas once I would say that the U.S. Barista Championship is the pinnacle, as one of the pinnacle events worldwide for Barista Championships, I think it has weakened because of the lack of support. Talent-wise, it's still very strong because we have a lot of people in America that want to compete. But as far as being a premier event, I don't think it is as good as it once was. Mainly because it's lost its financial support. So they're struggling. They're trying to make it happen, and so all these regionals now are happening in different parts of the country, different times, and where they used to have all the regionals like in one spot in a region, now they're disparate. So they have this Coffee and Good Spirits. Coffee and Good Spirits is a competition where you are a competitor who has 2 rounds of participation. You're given an alcohol and you're supposed to make a drink from it, and then you're supposed to come up with your own concoction where you make a drink using espresso that you make on site during the performance. And then there is an Irish coffee component where you make a traditional Irish coffee. Now, to be honest, of all the championships that I oversaw as an international representative for World Coffee events, the Coffee and Good Spirits was the one that I oversaw the least. Like it is very in the world of barista competition, like very, very niche. Only like the bartenders are interested in that. Nobody pays attention to it. It's like, it really truly is the redheaded stepchild. Like where the Chesve Ebrick might be by some people considered the redheaded stepchild, I think the Coffee and Good Spirits is definitely the redheaded stepchild. But I was thinking, you know what? When I saw the announcements from the United States Coffee Committee, let me go and maybe I'll try another round. And I realized that to get a spot in the Barista Championship would be very difficult. Plus, I think it was in North Carolina or far. It's far. It's the last time that I did it was mainly because it was super convenient and I was able to get a spot. Like it was happening in Baltimore, here at home, so I don't have to go anywhere. I can do whatever I want and then just go down there when I need to, and that was really convenient. So that was really great. I don't have to travel, and the other ones are all travel, and I don't want to travel anymore. Like I don't care to travel anywhere. I'm very lazy to do that. But they announced that the regionals for the Coffee and Good Spirits is happening in Westchester. I think Westchester, or just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is only about an hour and a half, 20 minutes, hour and a half drive from me. And I was like, you know what? I can do that. I can drive to Philly. So I threw I put, but it's a lottery, so you have to put your name in. So I put my name in, and I threw my name in because I figured, you know what, it's close by, and there's probably a good chance, since it is the redheaded stepchild of the competitions, that I'll get a spot. Like, not too many people want to do that, but like there's definitely a hierarchy, right? Like, Barista Championship is the most desirable. Brewers Cup is, I would say, second in desire. Like, Barista is the most desirable because it is truly the most prestigious. Like, even as a judge, I think that is the one to win, because if you're going to win one, that's the one. That's the hardest one to, and that's the reason why a lot of baristas who compete like the Brewers Cup more, because it's not as difficult. It's easier to prepare for than, at least they perceive it that way. It's easier to do than the Barista Championship. Barista Championship really is a difficult one to win, especially at the world level. Then there's barista, then there's brewers, then I would say is latte art. And then the other three, like the ebrick, maybe ebrick's better. Roasters, people don't care about the rest. The other three, nobody cares about. Like, only the people that are involved care about, like, ebrick, roasters, and coffee and good spirits. Nobody else cares. That's just like, it just doesn't compute. And I get it. So I figured that by applying to the coffee and good spirits, I would have a decent chance of getting a spot. And then if I got a spot, yeah, let's go for it. It'll be a lot of fun. And then we'll bring you along and do that. So, but I hadn't heard about anything. So I was like, okay, I didn't hear anything. I guess I didn't get a spot. And then I got this email from Ashley, and she's like, and talking about this seminar to watch for competitors and judges. And I was like, so I messaged her, I said, Ashley, did I get a spot? Is that why you're emailing me? And she's like, yeah, you got a spot if you want it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll take that spot. I will compete. I will join in the competition, in the spirit of battle, in like alcoholic combat. So if you have ideas about coffee, espresso, and alcoholic drinks, let me know. We'll try. I think we're going to try some recipe. My plan is to do some recipe testing on the live stream so we can discuss it and talk about the experience and try to figure out what I'm going to use. And then if you have recipes for Irish whiskey, I would like to know those as well, because I've made Irish whiskey maybe once, and I don't know why they have Irish whiskey as a category. Personally, I think it's dumb. Like, why Irish whiskey? What I get it. Like, Irish whiskey is it's the quintessential coffee alcohol beverage. But who cares? Who really drinks that except a bunch of lushes at the bar? Nobody drinks that. But maybe we can find a way to make it really thoughtful and exciting. So, and the whole thing is, when it comes to competition, it's not about what I like or what I think is right. It's about, this is the rules, and we must try to find a way to exploit the rules as much as we possibly can. And in this case, the nice thing about the alcohol component is that I can use alcohol and not have to worry, but I can actually disclose that. And in the past, I might use alcohol. I would never disclose it unless they actually found, unless the judges were good enough to perceive the alcohol and call me out on it. Then I would say, yeah, absolutely, I had alcohol. And then I would get disqualified, and that would be all right with me. Because then the judges had done their job, and I had been outed. We're just talking about donuts, coffee, and the coffee and good spirits competition that I'm going to be entering next month. It's actually in like 3 weeks, so I got to get cracking. It's going to happen, I think, in Westchester, Pennsylvania. It's being sponsored by Lavazza, so I'm hoping they're going to give us some good swag. Years ago, when the United States Barista Championship was sponsored by larger corporations like Krups actually gave us some pretty dope, like, competitor gifts, and they would give it to all the competitors, right? Like, that's the thing about a big corporation, right? And leave it to the pretentious or the up and coming pretentious baristas of the 2004-2007 era Here's Krupp's giving us a free grinder and a free espresso machine. And I mean, they gave us grinders and espresso machine. Now they're giving us Krupp's grinders and Krupp espresso machine. So they're not Lomorzoko, right? But they are free. Leave it to the baristas to gripe about, oh, you know, they gave us these crappy machines. They gave you a machine, shut the hell up. It's a good thing. I mean, I was happy. But one of the things they gave us that was stolen, I was so upset about that. One year, maybe it was 2009, Krupp's gave to all the competitors these little small Timbuktu messenger bags that had Krupp's embroidered, as well as the United States Barista Championship embroidered on it. Oh man, I love that bag. I used that as my carry bag for many years. It was stolen like 2 years ago, and I had it packed in one of my check-in luggages, and my check-in was stolen here at Baltimore Airport when it got returned. I was just so very salty about that. We're having a little bit of connection issues. Yeah, it was stolen. It was terrible. I came back from a trip from Saudi Arabia. My 2 bags didn't arrive. So, you know, and I've had this happen quite a few times. Like, I never worry about it. So the airline was like, okay, we'll bring them in on the next flight and then we'll drive them out to you. Perfect. So the next day I get this bag. I get one of the bags. I was like, where's my other bag? So I call the airline. Hey, where's my other bag? We don't know. We think it's lost. What? You just tracked it. So eventually I went down to the airport, went to the police department, to Maryland Transportation Authority Police, and I talked to the officer, and we looked at some cameras, because they brought it on the flight the next day, the last flight of the day, the 11 o'clock flight. Well, there's my bag on the carousel, and here's this taking it off the carousel and walking out of the airport with it. I was like, what the? And unfortunately, the police officer was like, you know, this happens quite a lot. And I was like, gosh darn it, I had gifts for some family in my bag. I was so upset about that. And, yes, I was very upset. But, you know, United, I gave them an inventory of what was in there. They cut me a check. I bought more stuff. I think I bought my FX30 camera with that. And then like last year when I finally went back to Japan, I replaced the bag that was stolen. I'll typically go to a place called Don Quixote in Tokyo when I need a bag. And they have these these big check-in roll-ons, rolling bags. And you get it for like $80, right? And I've had those. I've had Don Quixote bags for the last at least 10, 12 years, and they'll last quite a few years. And I mean, I'm traveling like upwards of like once a month with these bags, right? So we're flying before, and man, they last a long time. They take a hell of a beating. I've replaced them twice. And I mean, when I say they take a hell, one day maybe I should take some pictures and show you guys. There's one of the bags I still kind of have because I keep stuff in it. But I mean, it is beat to heck. Like, it's cracked. I've welded it back together. I've like put metal braces to hold, you know, parts back together. And eventually I just had to like replace it. All right, just put it on the surface. So it's about $80 and really decent quality. Like, I don't want to spend crazy money. Like, my friends will buy like Rimowa and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't want to spend that money. I mean, I'm sure it's nice. The bag that I keep thinking that I would like to buy are the what is it called? There's you'll see them if you go to the airports. You'll typically see the pilots using them. The pilots use these bags. What are they called? Travel or something? Anyway, they are steel-framed rollerboards. And if you see the pilot walking by, you just look at their bag. If it looks really squared off, and it has a steel frame, that's the bag. those can take a hell of a beating. I've talked to a lot of pilots about this, and they're like, yeah, these are indestructible. And I was like, oh, that's what I want. The only problem is empty, they're 22 pounds. So it's like, whoa, that's heavy. It's a heavy bag. But yeah, Saudi, I used to go to Saudi quite a lot. Mostly to oversee their barista or their coffee championships. So I started going there in 2018, September. And my last trip there was in December 2022. Right, so about 5 years we did trips to Saudi, sometimes 3 to 4 times a year. It was quite a lot. But it was really, I started going to Saudi at a very interesting time in their history. So the Prince, Mohammed bin Sultan, MBS, had been in power, but was really starting to make an impact in society there. So when during my first, like you've always heard of these stories, we always grew up hearing these stories about how Saudi is very segregated, especially for like foreigners. It's very strict as far as all the rules. It's Sharia law and all this. There's religious police. Women are separated and all of this kind of stuff. And I mean, I grew up in America, so you hear the worst of Islam. And I went there, so I go to Saudi. And Saudi, when I went there, it was still early in the phases. When I did arrive, by the time that I arrived, MBS had just defanged the religious police. So the religious police evidently used to, would be driving around, walking around, making sure people were acting and dressing and doing everything appropriately. When I first got there, he had just stripped them of their power. So my friends would point out, oh, there's the religious police. They're in their police cars that actually had green lights, and they're just sitting in the side of the road doing nothing because they got nothing to do. They couldn't do anything because they no longer had power. So that was the first thing. But back then, the country was still closed. There was no tourism visas. You had to go through all this like letters of introduction with the embassy and file with the embassy to get a visa to visit. You had to wear all the proper clothing. Women had to wear abayas and all that. And so, when we started going to the competition, I'm like, I'm going to bring women. I'm going to bring my most trusted judges in the world to come with me. And that's what I did. So I called up Sylvia Gutierrez in Mexico. I also called up In Young Song in South Korea, and I was like, hey, I would like you guys to come to Saudi. Adriana Hid in Mexico, and I was like, can you come to Saudi and judge here? And I was like, you're gonna have to conform to some of the rules, like the abaya. And they all came, which was really great. And because of what I wanted, I'll be honest, there was part of me that was trying to be a little bit surreptitious, right? I'd always heard about how, women are supposed to, or whatever, but I wanted to at least put women judges into positions of authority within the competition so that, women in the audience, women coffee people would see that in Saudi and hopefully someday feel comfortable to participate. Like we had one woman who was judging with us, but back then they had to be very separate. Like she would sit apart from the men. She would not partake in any of the photographs that we would take together. She would eat her meals in separate rooms because that's how they had it. They had women were separated from the men. But here's the thing. So as I spent more time in Saudi, I really started to realize that the separation of men and women wasn't necessarily a separation because they were deemed inferior or second class. I really started to see that separation was in many respects because they were very revered. Because one thing that I noticed about Saudi is that men are not catcalling to women. They're not seeing that girl in the burqa and thinking, well, she's kind of hot. They might think that in their minds, But they would never be hanging out with their friends and be like, ooh, look at that dude, she's pretty hot. Never. That never happens there. They're super, like, respectful about things like that. And so, you know, they had, at the time, they had these family and single sections where if you were married, if you were a woman, or if you were a woman with children, you would sit in the family section, or you would be in the family section. If you were a married man, an only married man, with your woman and children, or just with your children, you could go to the family section. If you were a married man, or without any of those, or a single man, you had to go to the single section, so that the single man or solo men could never be mixed with the women, because evidently bad things happen. And, you know, I guess this might come from a time in the Middle East where men would rape and pillage. Like, if that's part of the history of your region, like men are raping and pillaging, like, you want to protect your women, right? Now, in our Western view, like, they have taken some of those things to very large extremes, you know, that we don't feel comfortable with. And granted, women, in some of those cases, in some of those characteristics of society, even the women don't like it, of course, right? Women want to be able to do what they want to do. They want to travel without having to ask, mother, may I? They want to be able to drive. They want to do things, right? Maybe they don't want to have to wear the burqa all the time, or at least to that extent. Maybe they want to have a little bit of flair and flourish, right? And so one of the things speaking of the flair and flourish, one of the things I noticed that there were designer burqas, right? After a while, after a few trips of going there, I started to be able to recognize, like, oh, this burqa, while it meets all the burqa criteria, it's also very stylish. Like, there's very nice fabrics, maybe nice trim. The way they do the detailing, really well done. Like, ooh, you're like, ooh. And then then with the women, you get the glimpses. Like, they're not just like wearing. They're not like guys, right? Guys, if we wear like a toga, well, we're naked. But, you know, if we were wearing something like that, we would be, you know, whatever underneath. Women, on the other hand, in Saudi, you see them in their burqas, but then you'll get a glimpse of, like, maybe they've got some really nice, like, as they walk by, maybe the burqa moves a little bit, and you see the bottom cuff of their jeans. They look really nice. Or the Louboutin shoes, right? Or the really nice makeup around their eyes. Like, you can tell that they really have groomed themselves, and you're like, wow, that's fascinating. To me, it's utterly fascinating. But over the years, going to Saudi, it changed tremendously, like, shockingly. So, like, you might have seen this meme recently on surface everywhere about the Grandmaster champion on when she in 2017. They were going to have the World Championship chess tournament in Saudi or something like that. And she said in 2017 she will not go to Saudi because of the way they treat women. And I see this popping up every once in a while. And so, like, it popped up most recently last month. And and then, of course, it's as with any meme on the internet, it's always accompanied by whoever the poster is ranting about whatever injustice. And I like, one of my childhood friends, I was like, hey, I wrote to him, I said, dude, this is true Saudi 2017. It is not true Saudi 2024. I have been there many times. And he writes back, he says, well, you know, I don't trust that. Are you kidding me? I'm telling you, dude, I've seen it. I know women there. It is not the same as it used to be. So if you see these memes, it's definitely has changed. Changed to the point where, like, even I am shocked. Like, one of the later trips that we were there, like, remember I told you, men never talk to women. You don't look at women. Like, when I first went there, they were like, don't look at women. Don't leer at them. Don't look at them. Only talk if you have to, and be very respectful. I was like, okay, no problem. Like, I'm scared. Like, it made me scared to talk to women. at least Saudi women, right? And so, is there any questions, any comments? And you just never talk to women unless you're spoken to, or unless there's a true, proper reason to speak. So I went one night. My friend and I, Ahmed, he's in one of the videos, the one where we go to this secret coffee joint and have Arabic coffee. Ahmed and I and my friend Sean were sitting outside one night, like 2 a.m. And here's what's crazy. Saudi, like, because it's a desert country, like, things don't really start happening until 10, 11 at night, until it gets night, and then everything happens till like 3, 4 in the morning on a Tuesday. So we're outside. We're drinking tea, smoking cigars, having a nice time with the guys, as guys do, right? And there's these 2 women coming out of the hotel. They're walking to their car, and they're walking by us. And I'm facing them, right? And my Ahmed has his back to them as they're walking this way. As they walk by, they say something to each other kind of loudly in Arabic, which, if they're saying it loudly, they're meant for us to hear it. But I don't speak Arabic, so I have no idea what they say, but I do know women, or at least I do know people, and I know they're talking about us, right? So after they walk to their car, I said to Ahmed, I said, dude, what did they say? And he's like, oh, they said, look at these boys that's sitting outside smoking cigars when they could be doing something else. And I was like, what? I was like, what? Are you kidding me? These women said that in a public setting? I was like, dude, why did you say something? Well, I'm not supposed to say that. I was like, well, man, that's a total invitation. I was like, if I had known that, I would have said something like, well, why did you come join us? And then get myself into all kinds of wild trouble. Perhaps some bad and perhaps some good. But it's such an interesting place to go. Like, now women drive and women have freedoms. Like, it's so much to the point where there's a video on the channel where we go driving with a woman. And this woman, who I would consider to be a good friend now, she's the one that, when we first started going to Saudi in 2018, would not take photos with us, would not hang out with us, would not eat with us, because she's very traditional. But that was also the expectation of society at the time. Like, you just didn't do that. And now, like that one trip that we did the video from, she's like, hey, do you want to go see this coffee shop? I'll drive you. And I was like, what? Do you mind if I make a video? It's like, the chance to make a video of a woman driving in Saudi? Perfect. Let's go do it. So it has changed so much. And I wonder, like, now for me, it's been almost 2 years since I've been there. So it's like, how much more has society evolved and changed and opened up? I'm excited to see, the changes. The people seem happier. I had one person comment to me about, because I said something about, hey, do you guys like this? And they're like, well, it's not a question of us liking it. Because they didn't have movie theaters for many years, right? It was the rule of the Saud family, and they just had to conform, and they conformed, and that was how it worked. And I was like, okay, that's fair. So I must say, if you have the opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia, I think it's a wonderful country. And now they've opened up tourism, so you can go online. If you're from many countries, you can go online, apply for a tourist visa, an e-visa, and you get it almost instantaneously. Not like when I first got my visa, where you had to go to the embassy, interview, talk to people, send letters, get introductions, and all this kind of stuff. Now you can get a visa really, really quickly. It's really a beautiful country with a lot of wonderful people. Very low crime rate. Like, that's one of the nice things. Like, it's one of the few places in the world you can go where you don't necessarily have to worry about getting, like, attacked, robbed. You go to Europe, man, you're going to get robbed. You go to Italy, France, you got all these people, they're trying to rob you. Saudi, nobody's gonna rob you. Like, if they rob people, they're gonna catch you, they're gonna kill them or something. They're gonna do something extreme. They still have capital punishment in the square, I think. Like, I thought about going to watch it, but I was like, okay, maybe that's a little too extreme. So safety-wise, I think Saudi's very safe. Just be friendly, and plus they have this place called, I really wanted to go. Maybe I'll make a trip to go there. But there's a place that's very similar to Petra in Jordan. The name escapes me at the moment, but it's up in the northern part of the country. It looks beautiful. I've been wanting to go for years. It is kind of expensive to go because there's not much infrastructure there, so the only people that are doing these resorts, places to stay, are like resorts that are kind of fancy. So it's like, $900 a night or something like that. You're like, I'm not Saudi, I can't afford that. But here's an interesting thought about that not affording it. Saudis, so if you look at the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, right? Go to Dubai. The Emiratis, the actual native Emiratis, are fairly well-to-do. Mainly because, from my understanding, is that there's only 200,000 or 300,000 actual Emiratis. So the government takes very good care of them, gives them the house, gives them jobs, and makes sure that they're well taken care of. So Emiratis live very well. The average Emirati lives very well. Not so in Saudi, because Saudi is actually a much larger country. I thought there was 65 million people in Saudis, like actual true Saudis, not like immigrants. So in Saudi Arabia, there's a whole spectrum of Saudi socioeconomic classes, which I thought was just a fascinating thought. Another reason to go to Saudi is to go get dates. The dates in Saudi are excellent. My favorite are the Sukari dates, as well as the Ajwa. Ajwa are known as, they're a little bit darker. They're known as the Prophet's dates. Evidently, that was the date that the Prophet Muhammad would eat. I think that's why they call it that. So we're getting closer. I'm now gone from the Baltimore Beltway, 695, down Interstate 95 to the Capital Beltway, 495, where, as in true Capital Beltway Capital Beltway tradition, is traffic. Lots and lots of traffic here. Yeah, so let me know what you think about ideas for drinks, espresso with alcoholic drinks, any kind of idea you might have. I'm interested to hear. No matter how wild or ridiculous you may think it may be, let me hear about it, so that we'll try something, see how it goes. Part of the process of recipe development is throwing everything out there and seeing what sticks to the wall. If you're really into Irish coffee and have some ideas about Irish coffee, let me know those too. And if you're in the Philadelphia area, I think it's right around the middle of December. I don't know the dates exactly offhand. I will look it up. I'm actually kind of now concerned that it's going to conflict with a class I'm supposed to take, which means I have to push this. If that's the case, I'm going to have to push this class back to January or to a later date, which I'm kind of bummed about. Looking forward. I'm supposed to be taking an intro to woodworking class, and it's really it fills up really quickly, so it's difficult to get a spot, at least right away. So I signed up for this class at the beginning of October. So they have it every month. It's a 2-day class, and I was like, man, 2 months. I gotta wait 2 months to take this class. Now I might have to wait another month. Lose money on this one. We're gonna go there. Oh, there's I don't know if it's traffic or if there are lane closures at least. The one thing I do enjoy about coming to this part of the area is that typically I can go do a little shopping. There's another woodcraft here that usually has some stuff that my woodcraft doesn't carry. There's also the local Japanese market called Maruichi. I usually stop by there at least to get some shokupan. If that's like the pâte choux based French cruller, the shokupan from the Japanese style white bread uses that tangzhou method where they heat the milk and flour together to increase the hydration and increase the springiness and chewiness. That's what gives the shokupan its beautiful texture. Like that's the bread that I love so much. So maybe I'll probably stop by there and get some of that. And then there's also this like Taiwanese joint that is really kind of fun to eat at. It's in a gas station, so I'll probably have lunch there. All right, we got through this little bit of traffic. Good, now we're going strong. There's also something here that I really enjoyed. I wish I could do it more. It's just really about getting the time and, you know, having the extra cash. They have these at the Bethesda Mall, or whatever mall is out here, the West whatever mall. There is a 737 simulator. They use a 737 Next Gen, which is the 7-800 series Next Gen. Not the Max. The Max is the new one. But they have a full motion simulator that you can actually do pilot training qualifications on. And you can rent it for like $200 an hour. I did it for my birthday a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, it was like amazing. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I don't know if you're into aviation, right? I love the idea of being into aviation. Like I always wanted to fly, but I fly a lot, but I've never flown. I used to fly sailplanes, gliders when I was in Hawaii many years ago. I started doing training for the pilot's license, but I never completed it. I was always a little bit freaked out about the landings of gliders because, you know, I was under the impression that you could, once you started your landing procedure, you had to land, and you were going to land no matter what the consequence, no matter what the event. But then I was watching this guy, Bruno Vassel, on YouTube, who's a great, if you're interested in gliders and soaring and sailplanes, Bruno Vassel, BrunoVassel, I think it is. This guy is amazing. He's amazing. Like he actually got his the FAA suspended his license for like 7 months a couple of years ago because he did this impromptu acrobatics show at an air show event, and he posted the video, and the FAA was like, oh no, that's not, you have to get like special permits to do that, and they suspended his license. But his stuff is amazing. Like he is an awesome pilot. Like I said, like when I was always under the impression that once you're landing, you're done, right? But he brought this during this demonstration. He brought his glider down right to the runway, shot down the runway, and then took off again. I was like, "What? I can't believe you could do that." I was like, of course, he knows what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing, right? Anyway, so I guess that's it for today. I'm almost at my destination. I'm about to get off on the Rockville Bethesda exit now, which is where I'm going. I'm a little bit early, so that's a good thing. I'll just ring him up and tell him I'm here early if he can meet up earlier. If not, then I'll go maybe go to the Woodcraft and spend money foolishly, or maybe not. All right, well, always good to see you. Oh goodness. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. Back again tomorrow with another coffee Q&A. If you have questions or ideas for future videos, let me know. Also, if you have ideas for coffee drinks, let me know too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and see you next time.